I call to order this meeting of the Gary Sanitary District, this regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners for Monday, October 2nd, 2019. Before we start the meeting, I'd ask for anyone with a cell phone or a pager, if you could turn it to silent or vibrate as to not disrupt the meeting. And if you do receive a call or page during the meeting, we ask that you step out into the hallway to take it, as again, not to disrupt the meeting. The first thing on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you stand with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next on our agenda is roll call. Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Tramel Rags.
Present.
Commissioner Maurice Mabon.
Present.
Commissioner Ola Morris.
Present.
Commissioner Charles Jackson.
Present.
Attorney Joel Harris Jr.
Present.
Executive Director Daniel Vicari.
Present.
Director of Administration Vern White.
Present.
And that's the end of roll call.
Thank you. With 4 commissioners present, we do have a quorum to do business. Next on the agenda is certification. I, Tramel Rags, certify that prior to this meeting, there was an executive session held, and that there was nothing that was discussed during that executive session except the items indicated on the executive session notice posted in compliance with Indiana Code 5-14-1.5. There were also no final decisions made during that executive session in compliance with the same law. If there is any commissioner that dissents this certification, they may do so now. Hearing no dissension, we will move along to the minutes. What is the pleasure of the board regarding the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the executive session and regular meeting minutes for September the 16th, 2019.
Second that, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Mabon.
Yes.
Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, the minutes have been approved. Moving along our agenda, next we come to new business. And for new business, I'm going to turn it over to the Executive Director, Daniel Vicari.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to ask for Vern White to provide you the overview for item 2A.
Thank you, Director. Item 2A, a motion to approve GSD's payroll earnings for period ending August 19, 2019 through September 1st, 2019, in the amount of $243,429.44. I recommend approval as stated in the motion.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2A. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair. Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Mabon.
Yes.
Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2A has been approved.
Item 2B is a motion to approve amendment number 3 for a time extension to the collective bargaining agreement between the Gary Sanitary District and AFSCME Local 3491. This is, as the motion reads, just for a time extension only. I recommend approval.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2B. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Mabon.
Yes.
Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2B has been approved.
Item 2C is a motion to approve and ratify an award of bid to LGS Plumbing for a sanitary sewer repair at the vicinity of 604 Connecticut Street in a not-to-exceed amount of $25,940.00. We had an emergency cave-in that we addressed, solicited quotes from 15 contractors, 3 contractors responding, just roughly 28 feet of replacement of a 15-inch diameter sewer. The prices came in as we would have expected in this range for that scope of work. We've already awarded the work, looking for the board to ratify. Recommend approval of item 2C.
And Dan, you meant Kentucky as opposed to Connecticut, right?
Oh, yes, 604 Kentucky Street. Thank you.
Yep.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to the approval and ratification of 2C. What is the pleasure of the board?
So So move, Mr. Chair, for approval and ratification.
Second.
Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Maybach,
Yes.
Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2C has been approved.
2D is a motion to approve and ratify an award of bid to LGS Plumbing for a sanitary sewer repair at the vicinity of 929 East 16th Avenue in a not-to-exceed amount of $17,520.00. Similar cave-in as we had at Kentucky Street, 604 Kentucky, this one at East 16th Avenue, roughly 28 feet of sewer, but in this case it's 12-inch sewer, and it was a bit shallower, so we got a little better pricing here. Solicited quotes from 14 contractors with 3 responding. We've awarded the work to LGS Plumbing and looking for the board to ratify item 2D. I recommend approval.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2D. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move, Mr. Chair, for approval. Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Maybach.
Yes.
Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2D has been approved.
2E is a motion to approve and award, a motion to approve and award a bid to LGS Plumbing, Inc. for a sanitary sewer repair at the vicinity of 1744 Georgia Street in a not-to-exceed amount of $28,060.00. We have a 15-inch sewer, again, about 28 feet. We solicited quotes from 15 contractors. We had 4 respond with LGS Plumbing, even given the 10% preference from the Gary Bates contractors, the lowest responsive bidder. So we're recommending approval of item 2E.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2E. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair. Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
Just had a question to Mr. Vicari. Do we
Yes.
have a preventive maintenance program? Because it seems this last year we've been inundated with cave-ins. I don't know what the populace of the areas are. I mean, some streets may have 1 home, some streets may have 5, but we're still repairing.
Absolutely. That's part of our challenge as a city with vacant homes, is that even if there's 1 home that's in a block of, say, 12 homes, we still are obligated to provide sanitary sewer service to that home. I do know that the City Department of Redevelopment is rolling out a updated comprehensive plan for the city that does take into consideration such things. We've provided them the condition assessments that we have of all the sewers, and they've used that amongst hundreds of other analytics to look at what the comprehensive plan for the city should look like. But we do have, to answer your question about preventative maintenance, yes, we do. In fact, in the last 5 years, the Glen Ryan neighborhood, the Lake Street Miller neighborhood, Ambridge Man, and now next summer will be Horace Man neighborhood, where we are lining all these sewers to prevent them from failing prematurely. And using the word prematurely kind of loosely too, because many of these sewers, especially Ambridge Man, Horace Man, Lake Street, they're over 100 years old. To have the number of cave-ins that we have, I think is commensurate with the age and condition of our sewers. But we do have a preventative maintenance program to try to stay ahead of that.
And if I could piggyback on that, part of what I think you're looking for is maybe an infrastructure improvement plan as well, so that they're not always a response to an emergency. And Dan and I have had this conversation before, and my understanding is that until our long-term control plan is finalized, we really don't know what budget we're working with in order to implement an infrastructure improvement plan. So that's why it's been a full court press on getting finalized that long-term control plan, which is part of our consent decree. And once that's finalized, then as a district, we know where we're going in the future.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon,
Yes.
and Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2E has been approved.
Item 2F is a motion to approve and award a bid to Alex Met Sewers for a sanitary sewer repair located at the vicinity of 3501 Oakdale Drive in a not-to-exceed amount of $28,100. We had roughly 28 feet of 12-inch diameter sewer, and we are looking at the 4 bids after we solicited 15, and in this case, Gary-based Alex Met Sewer, Inc., when you apply the 10% bid preference, is the lowest responsive bidder, and we recommend award of item 2F.
You've heard the overview recommendation with regard to 2F. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, is that from manhole to manhole, 28 feet or what?
Yeah, there's, maybe Eric can help me out a little bit. From what I understand is that 28 feet with the type of fix that we do when you have the use of fern-coes, which are a big rubber fitting onto existing concrete or clay pipe, plus the standard length of PVC. We're replacing these with PVC. This is kind of that minimum length that you traditionally end up with, is that 28 feet.
I don't know what you're talking about, but okay.
I think part of his question is that it's going from manhole number 44, and the description says towards manhole 45, but it doesn't
Right.
necessarily say through.
Because we looked at the tape and don't see the need to replace the entirety of the line. Given the condition assessment, you rate them from a condition of 1, which is in good condition, to 5, which is in very poor condition. If we don't see that the upstream or downstream sewers are in poor condition, we don't replace them. It's adding cost. If we replace just a handful of cave-ins in their entireties, we would not be able to, from
So
a
you
budgetary
televise the whole
perspective,
thing?
replace all of them
You
that we do.
televise it
Yes, we do televise them,
Yeah.
yeah,
beyond that particular 27 feet?
right.
And you typically from manholes on either side of the pavement, so we're assessing 2 sewer lines,
Okay,
so sewer seconds.
okay. I follow you now somewhat.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon,
Yes.
and Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2F has been approved.
Item 2G is a motion to approve and award a bid to Continental Electric Company for GSD plant street lighting replacements in a not-to-exceed amount of $33,500. Here at the Gary Sanitary District, we have streetlights that are typically 150-watt regular Copperhead type streetlights that you'd see that NIPSCO has out in the general streets of Gary, and those are in need of replacement. We have 41 of them, and we were asking the board to replace them, and we will do so with modern LED fixtures. They'll greatly reduce our energy consumption here at the plant. So I recommend approval of item, or I should go back. We solicited quotes from 3 contractors, and Gary-based Continental Electric, given the 10% preference, is the lowest responsive bidder. So we recommend award of item 2G to Continental Electric.
You've heard the overview recommendation with regard to 2G. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair, for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
Yes. Is it our responsibility to replace those particular lights? Is it the city's responsibility?
It is our responsibility, even though that used to be what's called 3rd Avenue. That was vacated in the creation of the wastewater plant over 70 years ago. So those are our lights in our street.
The responsibility is the city's responsibility of replacing traffic lights.
These aren't traffic lights. These are our lights that light up the roads within the plant, is what we're talking about.
Oh, you're talking about those particular lights. I thought you were talking about traffic lights.
No, sir. The street lights that light up our streets here at the plant.
Oh, okay. My bad. I'm sorry.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
And Commissioner Ragg?
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2G has been approved.
Before I go on to 2H, there's something I should have mentioned about 2G, H, and I, is that all of these projects are eligible for $12,000 of energy credits back from NIPSCO. We pay into a program for energy efficiency. So when we make investments in capital projects that are eligible as an energy efficiency retrofit type project, we can get money back from NIPSCO. So in this case, all three of these, G, H, and I, will have a $12,000 rebate that we'll apply for.
Now, when will we see that?
That's a good question. I don't know. I have not applied
Have
for
we ever
NIPSCO.
received anything?
I can't tell you if it's 30 days or a year. I'll find out.
Have we ever received any rebate?
No,
We never received rebate.
not that I'm aware of. You have to make the
Of all the
investment.
energy that we use?
I'm sorry?
Of all the energy that we use?
You have to make investments in energy efficiency projects like this in order to be eligible for the rebate.
Could I have a question? The director of, Mrs. Anderson, have we ever applied for that?
Yes, we have. We've applied for a rebate for our aeration improvement project and also for boiler replacement project. And we will submit an application for the lighting project as well.
So I want to be clear, we haven't applied for it. Those are projects we're doing right now, and until you actually implement the project, you can't get the money back.
Correct. They will, in fact, I was going to talk about that in my update.
Okay.
All right, item 2H is a motion to approve and award a bid to Sweeney Electric Company, Inc. for the GSD collection garage lighting replacement in a not-to-exceed amount of $13,060. This is the garage where we keep all of our vehicles for the sewer maintenance equipment, and we are looking to replace 28 light fixtures within that garage with modern LED fixtures. We solicited quotes from 3 local electrical contractors, with Sweeney Electric being the lowest responsive bidder. So I recommend approval of item 2H.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2H. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, I just want, did we just replace those lights?
No, you're referring to the garage that we refer to this garage as the pole barn. The older garage that we rehabbed a few years back is a different garage.
Okay, the
One's
garage
very-
that we be talking about, I'm talking about the ones that's right out here to the left.
Right, that is the one we rehabbed.
Okay.
The pole barn is the whitish color building that's further down the way.
Okay, so that's another building.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
And Commissioner Ragg?
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2H has been approved.
2 ayes, a motion to approve and award a bid to Sweeney Electric Company, Inc. for the GSD raw pump building lighting replacement in a not-to-exceed amount of $28,730.00. So the raw pump room is in the basement of the Headworks building. Similarly to item 2G and 2H, we're looking to retrofit 40 fixtures in this case for the upstairs and downstairs area of that building with modern LED fixtures. We solicited quotes from 3 contractors, with Sweeney Electric being the lowest responsive bidder. I recommend approval of item 2I.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2I. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon?
Yes.
Commissioner Ragg?
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2I has been approved.
Item 2J is a motion to approve amendment number 1 to Richardson Disposal's professional services contract. Attorney Harris, do you have an overview?
I do. Richardson Disposal currently provides services to the Gary Sanitary District for alley cleanup, the alley cleanup program, and also the citizen drop-off site. Those services were going to be included into a comprehensive waste services plan through a partnership with redevelopment in the city of Gary. We've been working on that over the course of the last 2 years. It has not been finalized. It has not happened as of yet. So in order to comply with our requirement of the State Board of Accounts, we need to extend his current contract to go through 2019 to provide for the payments he receives for services he is rendering, and that is for the alley cleanup and the citizen drop-off site. Those other items related to the waste services plan continue to be on hold until further notice. I believe the current status is we're waiting on redevelopment to report back to us as to how that project is developing. So with that being said, I would recommend approval of item 2J.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2J. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
No second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
What's the cost for us?
$150,000,
Just $150,000?
yes. And that's an amount not to exceed figure, by the way, not a flat
Is that
amount.
for the year?
Yes.
An additional?
That's for the balance of 2019,
$150,000 additional.
correct?
What have we paid them so far?
That's a Vern question.
Burn?
450.
450,000? Good God Almighty. 450,000 plus 150,000. That's 600,000. Are we getting the service?
Yes.
So what do? We just call a person? Who do we call in case that we need service?
I'm not sure what you're asking. So,
You might want to describe the services
Right.
in more detail, what we're
so
talking
this service that the board has had for a number of years now is for a couple of things. One is citizen drop. So a citizen with a Gary resident identification, their operator's driver's license or just a regular state-issued ID. They show they live in Gary. They can bring certain qualified types of waste there. When I say that, like you can't bring a refrigerator full of refrigerant and that kind of thing. Things that are typically excluded from being dumped at a transfer station or a landfill translate here as well.
Okay,
And the
now-
idea is it's for citizens to be able to drop off, like if they're cleaning out their garage or their basement, and it's more than they can put on the curb for the garbage collector to take, they can take it themselves to the drop site. So you have two of them, one on the east side of town, one on the west side. This is for the west side. The other service that's provided is we call alley cleanup. So when there are, we call them fly dumping that occurs in the back alleys of Gary or otherwise, we can call this contractor and they at an hourly rate within this
So we don't
upper limit
have a
not to exceed,
person
they
in
will
our,
clean the alley.
we don't have a person to pick up for the city.
Yeah, General Services does it, and this is for the more extreme cases when there are
Okay.
things that are beyond the scope of General
In
Services.
other words, if you put tree limbs or tree branches out on the curb, will they pick those up?
No, sir.
Who-
We don't have that service in Gary. There is no, you can't bring a branch to the curb and
Well,
they can have someone pick it
how
up.
can we dispose of it?
So you
we
can
bring
take it
that
to
particular area?
both citizen drop sites, the east side and the west side. You can bring yard waste to it.
So you can bring branches to those particular areas?
Yes,
Stumps and et cetera,
yes.
tree stumps. There's other questions, but I'll let you go for the time being.
Well, I do have a couple questions based on this, piggybacking off what Commissioner Jackson has asked. This isn't a situation where the vendor could just submit a bill to the district for $150,000 and that'd be the end of it. There are some checks and balances against this bill. Is that accurate?
There is, and we actually have part-time, we call them monitors, that make sure, for example, if there's a request to clean up an alley because there's been some dumping there, we have the monitors that create a log of the areas that need to be addressed, and within the budgets of the contract, direct the contractor, Richardson Disposal, of which alleys to clean up and when. They take pictures beforehand, and they take pictures afterhand, and they also get copies of the scale tickets from Republic Services where the material is brought to, so that when we are presented with an invoice from Richardson Disposal, we can do our due diligence to make sure that that was work that was actually accomplished.
Okay, and this is not a guarantee of $150,000?
No,
just
it's an upper
not to
limit not to exceed.
So I can explain that a little more too. I think that's all going to be weather dependent, depending on how the fall is, how quickly winter comes. 150 would be worst case scenario if we had warm weather all the way through the end of the year. If winter comes early, then it's not likely there'll be very much alley cleanup activity, and that amount could be a lot less. Obviously, we want to avoid coming back for further approval, so the amount is anticipating using it through, all the way through December, which we probably won't be that lucky.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon,
Yes.
Commissioner Rad.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2J has been approved.
That's all for new business today.
Thank you. Moving along our agenda, next we come to claims, and for claims, I'll turn it over to the Director of Administration, Ms. Vern White.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 3A, GSD claims numbers 3,811 through 4,105 in the amount of $1,753,023.99. I recommend approval and ratification of today's GSD claims.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to approval and ratification of 3A. What is the pleasure of the board?
Let's move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon,
Yes.
Commissioner Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, the claims have been approved and ratified.
That completes today's GSD claim items.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is information updates, and our first information update will be from our plant superintendent, Ms. Rhonda Anderson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There was a pre-construction meeting for the aeration improvement project on October 1st, and we are looking forward to the start of demolition of some of our existing equipment within the coming weeks. A NIPSCO Energy Efficiency Program contractor was here to inspect our existing blowers and our existing boilers last Tuesday, and this is part of the approval process. So the first thing you have to do is submit an application. They come out and inspect the equipment that you're replacing, and then after the installation of the new equipment, they come back to ensure that you have in fact installed the new equipment, and then that's when the rebates are issued. So we've been working with CDM Smith on this with the applications, and so we're through the inspection process, and after the installation, then they'll come back on the boilers and the blowers. Now on the lighting project, it's a little bit different. We don't have to get pre-approval up front for the lighting, because we are just replacing fixture for fixture. However, we have submitted the application, and we are, once the installation of the new fixtures are in place, they'll come back and inspect to ensure that we have replaced the fixtures, and then they will issue the rebate. So that's where we are with the energy efficiency program. The second dewatering screw press plant trial is scheduled to begin today. We had one a few weeks ago. We got dryer cake, which is what we were hoping for. However, the polymer that was used to get that dryer cake is more expensive polymer than what we're using now. And it also, they also needed a lot more in terms of dosage to get that dryer cake. So it doesn't look like it will be more cost effective. We haven't actually done the calculations yet, but we are not real optimistic about that. So the trial with a different company is scheduled to begin today, and we're hoping for better results.
The B40 raw sewage pump was completely overhauled, and it's back in service. So American Precision addressed the pump, impeller, shaft, and bearing issues, and Midwest Service Center reconditioned the motor. So it was complete overhaul, which is something that we have to do every so many years on these pumps. The number 2 and number 5 aeration diversion gate actuators have been installed, making it easier for the operators to divert mixed liquor from one aerator to another one. The west screw conveyor for dewatered sludge in the dewatering building for the cake that comes off of the belt filter press has been repaired. I mentioned at the last board meeting that there was a lot of work done on primary tank number 10, where there was a flow meter replaced, the long flights were repaired, and the chain for the cross flights were replaced. And they've completed all of that, and that tank is back in service now. And finally, the south CPEX pump in the DAF building has been repaired and is available. And that pump is the pump that pumps the sludge from the gravity belt filters to the blend tank. So that's all I have, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions from Ms. Anderson?
I'd just like to say thanks for the update and keep us updated on what new aspects are in interviewing the other contractors of the dewatering building, especially for the compacting of the sludge.
Sure.
Maybe you can do a comparison of and a negotiation on the liquid in case that we do go that way.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Our next information update is going to be on construction activities for Mr. Eric Tonk.
Good morning, Board. Here to give a quick update on current projects currently going on. The first one is the 29th and Jerry Street project. This project is complete. Well, we're finalizing the project, trying to get the paperwork in for the next board meeting to close out this project. The Clark Road Improvements Project is also nearly complete. There's one item, I believe, still left on the punch list item. That's dependent upon NIPSCO lowering one of their valves. So that item is still causing us delays to closing out this project. It's not on my report, but the 4th and Bigger Street, as you see the next agenda, there will be a change order for traffic control loops to be installed. That wasn't part of the original contract. So that's be the last remaining item for that project. The Ambridge Neighborhood Sewer Rehabilitation Project, currently they're doing 2 point repairs they have to complete before they can start lining, but they are anticipating that lining to get started this month. The Lake Street Road construction is well underway, as you know. Right now they're working between 5th Avenue and 7th Avenue. Going down to the subgrade, put in a new surface for the new roadway, moving inlets closer together, and currently pouring curbs this week. And for the wastewater treatment plant paving project, majority of the work has been completed. A punch list will be generated shortly. There are some areas that still needs to get dressed up. All the curbs and asphalt most of the asphalt is in. And that's all I have.
All right. Any questions from the board with regard to construction activities?
I'd just like to have one. I spoke to the director concerning that change order, and he said that it wasn't in the bid originally.
This is for the 4th and Bigger?
It's on the next agenda.
It's the next agenda. That was in 4th and Bigger.
It's on stormwater.
Okay. We'll hold tight on, well, even though he's not,
I'll come back up.
You'll come back up, okay. You want to put it down there? Talk about it?
Sure.
The reason I said I spoke to him about it, and he said that it wasn't in the original bid, but change orders, if it's in the original bid, they might be able to negotiate it down to a lower price, because it's bidded out. And at the present time, it just looked like that we are letting change orders come through as fitted. But the main thing is that he said the reason why he didn't do it because it would bankrupt the city. But if it's in the original bid, we might be able to negotiate the particular prices down somewhat. And especially if you're in the main thoroughfare and you're traveling, you wouldn't want to stop at every red light. Have it so that it would negotiate on which lights it should be on, when, and what, and then as well, individual can travel up and down Broadway, up and down any street besides stopping at every stoplight sign. So that's my pet peeve about that situation. I can understand it would bankrupt the city if we put these particular loops in every city, every area, but put them where they're needed. That's my main concern. You can put them on every stop sign, every little creek and prairie, but the main thing is down Main Thoroughfare, where we need it, if needed.
I agree.
All right, well, look at that when you do negotiations and put it in the contract.
Okay.
And hopefully that, if needed.
We'll consider that under advisement for future projects.
Sure. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is discussion. That's discussion amongst any member of the board. Is there any topic that a board member wishes to discuss at this time?
I had a question for Dan Vicari on Harrison Street. Do you anticipate that opening anytime soon? Or
Yeah, I met with the Little Cal Basin Commission. I was going to bring it up during stormwater as well, but I can address it now.
Okay.
The Dan Ripe, the executive director of the Little Cal Basin Commission, I met with him on Friday, and he said that will be done at the end of this month.
Okay.
All right, any other thing?
One last thing. On our newsletter that comes out quarterly, I think that newsletter is 4 pages. 3.5 pages of that is about green urbanism. I think it needs to reflect some of the things that we do here. I don't know if it's being cut and paste, but it needs to reflect some of the things that are being done here at the sanitary district. And I would prefer that it starts off with the first page as to some of the things that were done here, some of the accomplishments, some of the things that we've accomplished over the course of whatever quarter. That's a quarterly paper, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know who the author is, but maybe you can get in contact with him.
I will do that.
Because I think we didn't we buy 800 book bags recently for back to school?
Look at me.
Okay. We can shut this down.
Anything else?
Request to speak.
If there's no other discussion amongst the board, next we'll move on to request to speak. Ms. Lee, are there any requests to speak?
Yes, we have one, Miss Ludinia Carmen.
Ms. Carmen, can you please approach the podium?
Good day. My name is Lapinia Carmen. I was wondering, I've been calling the sanitation to get some answers about the highness of our sanitation bill, because I've been told so many different things, and I want to know, how do you come up with the price? Where is it coming from, and how do you determine how much we use for you all to charge us?
I can answer that. The calculation for your sanitary bill usage is based on the water consumption that you use at your home. So if you use, say, 2,000 gallons of the potable water that comes in from Indiana American Company, we charge you based on that amount. It's a measure that's taken because it kind of just makes sense. If you're running 2,000 gallons worth of water in the house, well, it's got to go somewhere, down the sinks, down the toilet, things of that nature. And it's how each citizen pays their proportionate share for cost here at the plant.
Okay, with that being said, you're saying because of the water we usage, you basing that on what's going in the sewage, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How are you going to say all the water that I'm using is going in the sewage when that's not possible?
Well, the vast majority of water that is used in homes, and you have to understand that we have to tailor a policy that is going to apply generally. Yes, there is going to be some citizen probably that would put no water that they'd ever use in the toilet, but you have to tailor a policy for the vast generality of the city.
I understand what you're saying. With all respect, all the water isn't going, so I don't see how the sanitation bill should be more than a water bill when you all are not supplying and you're supposed to determine how much is going in the sewage, correct?
Correct.
So with that being said, you really don't know how much water is going in the sewage in order to charge for it.
Right, but it's based on a general number. Like, for instance, if you use, and you got to, excuse me if I'm wrong, I am making an assumption here, that if you get billed for 3,000 gallons from Indiana American Water, you didn't use an exact 3,000 gallons, just like at GSD, we won't bill you for an exact number down to the gallon, just because that's not the way that it's tabulated. Am I accurate with that?
I think she might be talking about, well, the only other usage of water would be like landscaping, or filling a kiddie pool in the backyard, things like that. So that's generally done during the summer, right? And what we have is a summer credit program, and I'm not sure if they explained that to you down at 504 Broadway, but the summer credit program, how it works is your average non-summer usage, so that'd be your monthly average for the winter months, is used to bill you during the summer at GSD, no matter how much water you use. So if you'd end up, if you're watering your lawn and say you use 10,000 gallons, but your average winter usage of water is about 2,000 gallons, we will bill you during the summer months just the 2,000 gallons worth of usage. And the water, our cost per 1,000 gallons is more than the water companies, because it is more difficult and more costly to treat dirty water than it is to take clean water from Lake Michigan and provide it to the community. So I don't know if that answers some of her questions too.
All due respect, you saying that, but if you're not watering your grass and you're not doing a pool, how you still going to charge that amount of money per gallon of water?
Did we just talk to her after that?
Yeah, Mel, if you want, you can stick around after the end of the meeting. There's probably going to be some questions specialized to your usage, if I'm understanding some of your questions properly.
I did have a question. You're saying your sewer bill is exceeding your water bill?
Correct.
By how much?
It was double this month.
It's always going to be double. It's always double because it costs almost twice as much
So
per thousand.
The sewer rate is what, $3.80?
It's $8.50. At the water company, it's about $4.50, I believe.
4,000 gallons.
So Mel, just so I understand the nature of your question, your question is not so much directed at, well, how can you tell how many gallons go down the toilet? Your question is tailored at, why is the cost for treatment so high per gallon? Is that accurate?
It's actually that, how do you know how to charge us what's going down the sewage? And the price per gallon, it exceeds, but I don't feel that my sewage bill should be more than my water bill. It don't make sense.
Okay, so it sounds as if your question is tailored more toward your cost per gallon.
Yes.
If you're saying that you don't understand why the sewage bill should be more than the water bill.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, we can have somebody explain that to you in more specific terms after the meeting. That's fine.
All right.
Ms. Lee, are there any more requests to speak?
No, sir.
Okay. Next on the agenda is adjournment. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We are adjourned. I call to order this meeting of the Gary Stormwater Management District, this regular meeting of the Board of Directors for Monday, October 7th, 2019. First thing on our agenda is roll call. Ms. Lee.
Director Tremel Rags.
Present.
Director Maurice Mabon.
Present.
Director Ola Morris.
Present.
Director Charles Jackson.
Present.
Attorney Joel Harris Jr.
Present.
Executive Director Daniel Vakari.
Present.
Director of Administration Vern White.
Present.
And that's the end of roll call.
Thank you. With 4 directors here, we do have a quorum to do business. Next on the agenda is certification. I, Tremel Rags, certify that prior to this meeting, there was an executive session held, that there was nothing discussed during that executive session except the items that were indicated on the executive session notice posted in compliance with Indiana Code 5-14-1.5. Also, no final decisions were made during that executive session in compliance with that same law. If there is any director that dissents this certification, they may do so now. Hearing none, next on our agenda is minutes. What is the pleasure of the board regarding the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the executive section and regular meeting minutes of September the 16th, 2019.
Second it, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson.
Yes.
Director Morris.
Yes.
Director Mabon.
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, the minutes have been approved. Moving along our agenda, next we come to new business, and for new business, I'll turn it over to the director, executive director, Daniel Vakari.
Thank you. For item 2A, may I ask for Vern White to provide you the overview?
Thank you, Director. Item 2A, a motion to approve GSWMD's payroll earnings for period ending August 19, 2019 through September 1st, 2019, in the amount of $11,545.78.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2A. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson.
Yes.
Director Morris.
Yes.
Director Mabon.
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2A has been approved.
Item 2B is a motion to approve change order number 2 to Walsh & Kelly, Inc. for the Jerry Street resurfacing and drainage improvements project, which was GSWMD project number SW17-02. The nutshell overview is that there were 2 main areas of conflict on this project that caused the need for delay claims from the contractor as well as changes in scope. Those 2 areas were in the form of the utilities, the gas main, which NIPSCO did agree to relocate because it was in conflict with our new storm drainage features of the project, but that took time. The other thing that happened was the sanitary sewer connections. For the most part in Black Oak, it was largely an unsewered area for decades until much more recently, and I say much more recently like in the 90s, when sanitary sewer service was provided and homes could voluntarily connect to the sanitary sewer system. It appears that, at least on Jerry Street, many of those connections were made, but made too shallow. And when they were shallow, they were in conflict with again, our storm sewer utility that we were looking to put in that area to improve the quality of that road. But the details concerning this request for change order number 2, I'd like to ask for John Tucker, the construction resident engineer for American Structure Point.
Thank you. Mr. Tucker.
Good afternoon, directors. As Dan mentioned, change order 2 was associated with the remaining of the work being done, a year later after the contract was let with the relocation work by NIPSCO. We did work with the contractor with the increase in cost on some of those items. They also held a lot of the asphalt items. And then we did some value engineering to kind of minimize that increase. And as Dan mentioned, the sanitary sewers itself, once we encountered them, they weren't at the 5-foot buried depth, which was on the as-built that we had received prior to, so we had some field adjustments to make in the field. We did establish a price so that we knew going into it what that rate would be, so that everyone was on that same page. So that's the overall change order for Jerry Street to get the storm sewer in. I guess I can answer any other questions if there are.
Are there any questions from the board?
So what's the percentage basis of that change order?
Sorry, sir. It is about 10%.
Okay.
Yes.
How much was that change order?
The change order itself was for $36,000.
What did you negotiate it from? What did you negotiate it from?
Oh, from where it was originally started at? Well, it was when we had, if you look at all the items itself, we held, it was higher than that. It was closer to 45 at one time, and then we worked through different, like I said, the value engineering. There was sod in the contract. We went with the seed blanket, which actually took very well this fall. We didn't have to use as much of the black dirt. We were able to use on-site material, so we worked with them to get the price down. The 36, like I said, is two parts. It's about 20,000 is what the initial increase from one year to the next, and then the sanitary laterals itself was about 16,000. So that's kind of a quick breakdown. There is an itemized one showing all the quantities where everything fell in, and like I said, we were able to minimize some of the other items, and I mean, it's just the overs and unders are listed in that breakdown as well.
Do you anticipate any additional change orders on this
No,
project?
this is the final. Project is complete.
How soon till you issue us a request for substantial completion and retainage release?
It'll be at the next board meeting. I wanted to have the change order go through first to get that cost in.
Right.
With all that said, Mr. Ricari, is there a recommendation on 2B?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, I do recommend approval of item 2B.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2B. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move, Mr. Chair, for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson,
Yes.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Maybon,
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2B has been approved.
Item 2C, thank you, Board, I'm sorry. Item 2C is a motion to approve change order number 3 to Reith Riley Construction Company, Inc. for the 4th Avenue and Bigger Street Resurfacing and Drainage Improvements Project, which is GSWMD project number SW18-02. The broad overview is that this change order was to provide for an improvement to that intersection that was not previously there with respect to traffic loops and associated signal cabinets. If you would like further details on how we enumerated or what the requirement was here, or actually what the ask was here of the city, John Tucker's stayed at the podium for you.
Yes, sir. Just to kind of a little background and clarity on this too, from what was mentioned in the prior meeting, we did have signal loops as part of the contract. They were installed on 4th and Bigger at the time 5th and Bigger. At the time of construction at 4th and Bigger, the signal work was there. However, there was no signal traffic cabinet, so the loops itself weren't installed because there was no cabinet to tie into. Since then, the city has provided a new cabinet at that intersection. So instead of, as part of this, we hadn't closed it out, we were able to add that back into the contract. And the price that we did receive from them is we also had another price that the city had received from the same contractor for comparison, and everything's in line to that, plus what we already originally had in the contract documents. So even though this is an increase, if you remember, we had change order 2 at the last board meeting before. That was actually a decrease of $36,000 when we were finalizing all the quantities. So even though we're adding back in another $7,000, we're still overall $8,200 under the original contract from the bid amount, actually. And that is with the addition, we had a storm sewer that we added. We were able to recoup that cost and still come in under the initial bid item, even with the additional work we did out there. So that's what this change order is, to move forward to install the loops on 4th and Bigger, so then we can complete the traffic work there in conjunction with the city.
Okay.
I thought you said that the loops were installed, but just didn't have a cabinet to connect them.
The loops were installed, I said, it was at 5th and Bigger. At the
5th and Bigger.
Yes, sir. Those were installed. We did not install them at 4th and Bigger at the time of construction, the original construction, until the cabinet was placed by the city. So that is what we're going to do now, is put in the loops for northbound at 4th, so that,
So the cabinet is there, but the loops are not.
That's correct,
Is that what you're saying?
that is correct.
But when you started the project, the cabinets were not there. So when we bid the project, right?
Correct. There was no cabinet at that intersection during our construction phase.
So to remind ourselves too that this was a stormwater drainage improvement project and associated improvements to do that. And just so happens that Dave Schilling is here from Robinson, but he also sits as city engineer. And not that you have anything to say about it, but I know that that is in the city of Gary Public Works purview to look at such things as traffic signals and where they should be and where cabinets need to be replaced and so forth. So,
Well, why was this cabinet installed over here now? It's a cabinet sitting there that's controlling the lights, but you said it's not controlling the loop because we don't have a loop,
Dave,
right?
could you explain?
You don't have a loop there now?
Correct.
As we talk.
That's correct.
So earlier this year, the city of Gary did an evaluation of all 94 traffic signal locations, and we put together a scope of work to replace, to get, them all working. So what we started doing is we started working on, we went by the traffic counts. So we started at the busiest intersections first, and 4th and Bigger is one of those. So if you remember, for a long time, that was on permanent flash, just flashing red. So when the city's contractor installed the box that had been knocked down or some removed, whenever that was, it was put on a timer. The timer is not as efficient as the loops. The loops will cause the light to change when a car pulls up. Without those loops connected, it has to be set on a timer. So there could be nobody on Bigger wanting to turn, but that timer is still going to turn 4th red. So installing the loops now will allow that signal cabinet to be actuated instead of on a timer. So like he identified, there was nothing at the time to connect the loops to because the cabinet was missing.
It's just a matter of protocol. I recommend approval of item 2C, and so we can get into the discussion part. That was overview.
Okay. You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2C. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
Well, the mere fact that we're still coming in $8,200 under in the project, and I appreciate that. Most times when we have change orders, the combine is going to exceed by a certain amount, but I don't know if it's your pencil or what, but we do appreciate coming in under.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
That's our goal.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Well, like I said earlier, we had talked about it, but originally in construction bidding, make sure that you include this in that case, or see what it would cost if necessary, because we don't need to come back with a change order, even though we're under, but it won't be under it to go into another construction area doing the same thing.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson?
Yes.
Director Morris?
Yes.
Director Maybach?
Yes.
Director Rags?
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2C has been approved.
Thank you. Item 2D is a motion to approve the certificate of substantial completion to Reith Riley Construction Company, Inc. for the 4th Avenue and Bigger Street resurfacing and drainage improvements project. And that is GSW&D project number SW18-02. I recommend approval.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2D. What is the pleasure of the board?
So So move for approval, Mr. Chair. That's
Second.
just to close it out.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson,
Yes. Yes.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Maybon.
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2D has been approved.
2E is a motion to approve a contract to Gary Up Construction Company for the Lake Street parking lot improvements in a not-to-exceed amount of $545,574.00. I would like to make a correction to the agenda item. It is not the correct dollar amount there. The correct dollar amount is $963,000. I'm sorry, $963,500.00. To further explain, as a matter of housekeeping, we need to award a contract at the face bid value. I will tell you in my overview leading into item 2F, we have worked with Gary Up Construction and our consulting engineering firm at American Structure Point to reduce the scope of work, not necessarily the scope, but really value engineer what we were looking at. For example, on this project, we had intended to use a product called Pave Drain. It's similar to the project, or actually the same product we use at Shelby and Locust. Based on the extent of the work that would be needed on Lake Street in the former Mingling restaurant parking lot, we're looking at an alternative material in the form of pervious asphalt that we used in the alleyways. We think it, seeing the pricing especially after the bids came in, we see that as a much more cost-effective approach, especially considering that the city is really endeavoring to redevelop this corner at 6th Avenue and Lake Street. And so looking at something that will meet the mission of the Gary Stormwater Management District to improve stormwater quality and quantity, we thought that this is a much more cost-effective measure. We also had some planter boxes, or planter pots, if you will, that were intended to be filled with flowers and be more of the attractive benefit of the street. The pricing for those planters did not come in very attractive, so we're looking to delete those and perhaps bring it back to you in the spring in the form of a much more cost-effective product. But as a whole, we're still getting the parking lot done in a sustainable way with pervious pavement, and we are still completing the balance of the landscaping work in the form of trees, shrubs, and native plantings up and down the street from 7th to 3rd Avenue, including the parking lot. There's also a feature, what we're calling a pocket plaza. Adjacent to where the Mingling used to be, there's going to be an area where people can, and I should go back and say it's in partnership with the Arts and Creative District, who was one of the enabling benefactors of this project, helping to get the Mingling restaurant demolished. All they asked for in return was to have this little pocket plaza in that parking lot, which takes up, I don't know, maybe 5 car parking stalls worth of space, and in there will be areas where they can have resident artists provide for their artwork in the form of sculptures or paintings. They can have exhibits there. There's area for seating, and it's also being done in decorative pavers in that area. But all in all, we reduced the bid amount in the form of change order 1. I know it says work directive 1, to get this project down to $545,574. So I know that was very long-winded, but I do need to make the correction that I'm asking the board to consider approval of the contract at its face bid, and then we will move into item 2F, which is the change order for the deduct. So with that overview, I recommend approval of item 2E.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regards to 2E. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
What is it, 545 or 963,000?
We need to ask the board to consider approval of the face bid, which was $963,000, or I'm sorry, $963,500.00.
And when are you going to get it back down to 500 something?
And item 2F.
2L? Okay. That's all right.
Any other discussion?
to make you feel better, if you approve item 2E and don't approve 2F, I will not issue a notice to proceed.
But don't even bring it up.
Right.
Hearing no other discussion, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson,
Yes.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Maybon,
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2E has been approved.
So for item 2F is the motion to approve work change directive, which is similar to a change order, it's just how this form is titled. Number 1, to Gary Up Construction Company for the Lake Street parking lot improvements. So with this change order, we are looking at a deduct to the contract value or contract bid amount of $417,926.00, which will bring the current contract value to a total of $545,574.00. I recommend approval of item 2F.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2F. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Well, second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson.
Yes.
Director Morris.
Yes.
Director Maybon,
Yes.
and Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2F has been approved.
Item 2G is a motion to award a bid to Reith Riley Construction Company, Inc. for the Forest and Locust Avenue Stormwater Improvements Project, and that is GSW&D project number SW19-02, in a not-to-exceed amount of $645,025.00. Similarly to the last couple of motions, this was the face bid of this project, which was beyond the budget that we had for the project. We've met with Reith Riley to address only the very critical and essential components of this project to improve the drainage and the roadways at Forest and Locust Avenues in the scoped areas. And we were able to reduce the contract by a total of $200,093. So similarly as before, I'm asking the board to consider approval of the face value of the bid, and then I will follow up with change order number 1 and item 2H for the deduct.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2G. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move, Mr. Chair, for approval.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson,
Yes.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Maybon,
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2G has been approved.
2H is a motion to approve change order number 1 to Reith Riley Construction Company, Inc. for the Forest and Locust Avenue Stormwater Improvements Project, and that is GSWMD project number SW19-02. This is in the form of a contract deduction of $200,093.00. I recommend approval.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2H. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
So this project will go all the way to the lake, right?
This is not, I have the drawings here, I could share them with you. We are looking at the portion of Locust between Tippecanoe and Sullivan. Literally no drainage currently. We need to build that road up, reestablish the Crown Road, and provide for the proper drainage and rehabilitate the roadway. And then as far as Forest Avenue, it's a section of forest. I call it the Winding Dune Trail. It's sometimes hard to tell which direction you're traveling because it winds around so much, but we had intended originally on resurfacing the entirety of this stretch of road, and now again we are only doing the most critical components, making sure we keep water off the road.
At some point, are we going to have to come back and do some additional work?
That would come mostly in the form of paving, a milling and overlay of paving. We're providing the essential stormwater infrastructure elements of the project, and whatever paving comes with that essential part. Any additional paving that may or may not have been prematurely worn because of inadequate stormwater drainage, we could talk about it at a future time, but given the existing cash flows of the stormwater funding that we have, is why we needed to reduce this scope.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson,
Yes. Yes.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Mabon,
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2H has been approved.
I'm going to try not to lose my voice this morning. So item 2I and J, again, similarly as the past two projects, we're looking for a motion to approve task order number 14. I'm sorry, let me go back. This is for the construction engineering, so still associated with forest and locust projects, but it's a motion to approve task order number 14 to the master services agreement between Gary Stormwater Management District and Robinson Engineering LTD for engineering services for the Forest and Locust Avenue Stormwater Improvements Project, and that is GSWMD project number SW19-02. So Robinson Engineering has provided a quote to provide for the construction engineering services, so they will be overseeing the extent of the project, making sure that it is constructed to the plan. Their project fee is $31,800, and I recommend approval.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2I. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move, Mr. Chair.
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson,
Yes.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Mabon,
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2I has been approved.
2J is a motion to award a bid to Reith Riley Construction Company, Inc. for the 20th place from Taft to Ellsworth Stormwater Improvements Project, that is GSWND project number SW19-03, in a not-to-exceed amount of $286,625.00. Again, looking at value engineering the project, only looking at the very critical, essential elements to be accomplished this fall, and we were able to, and I'll address it in item 2K, reduce the total project amount by $92,841.00. So it will leave a net $193,784 as an upper limit not to exceed after item 2K, the change order. But again, administratively, we do need to award a contract at face bid. So I recommend approval of item 2J.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2J. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson,
Yes.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Mabon,
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2J has been approved.
2K is a motion to approve change order number 1 to Reith Riley Construction Company, Inc. for the 20th place from Taft to Ellsworth Stormwater Improvements Project, and that is GSWMD project number SW19-03. The value engineering conducted by Robinson Engineering has resulted in a net deduct of $92,841.00, leaving a new contract value of $193,784. I recommend approval.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2K. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move, Mr. Chair, for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson,
Yes.
Director Morris,
Yes.
Director Mabon,
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2K has been approved.
2L is a motion to approve task order number 15 to the master services agreement between Gary Stormwater Management District and Robinson Engineering LTD for engineering services for the 20th place from Taft to Ellsworth Stormwater Improvements Project, and that is GSWND project number SW19-03. This is for Robinson Engineering's task order in order to provide construction engineering for the associated project, and it is for a not-to-exceed amount of $18,400. I recommend approval.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to 2L. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson,
Yes.
Director Morris,
Morris.
Yes.
Director Maybon.
Yes.
Director Wray.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, 2L has been approved.
That is all for new business today, Commissioners, and I appreciate your consideration of the projects.
Thank you. Moving along our agenda, next we come to claims, and for claims, I'll turn it over to the Director of Administration, Ms. Vern White.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 3A, GSWMD claims number is 426 to 452 in the amount of $780,635.60. I recommend approval and ratification of today's stormwater claims.
You've heard the overview and recommendation with regard to the claims. What is the pleasure of the board?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Lee.
Director Jackson,
Yes.
Director Morris.
Yes.
Director Maybon.
Yes.
Director Rags.
Yes.
The vote is 4 ayes, 0 noes.
With 4 ayes and 0 noes, the claims have been approved and ratified.
That completes today's stormwater claim items.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is information updates. Our first information update will come from our MS Board Coordinator, Ms. Brenda Scott Henry.
Good afternoon. Only a couple of things that I want to bring to your attention. One, over the weekend, we had 2 events. One was the Bike and Bird. We partnered with the Parks Department, Dunes Learning Center, the National Park Services, the Douglas Center, as well as the Audubon and Youth Service Bureau to do the Bike and Bird activity. We did a tour of the Green Link from downtown at the Gateway Park all the way to Bridge Street. And we had a group of people who were just walking, and then some were biking. And the Audubon Education Outreach Coordinator provided us information on how to do bird watching as we were traveling along the way. So we picked out a few spots. We had about close to about 20 people who were participating in the event, both adults and youth participated in that event. And following that, at 3 o'clock that afternoon on Saturday, we had the Gary Urban Farm Initiative, where we hosted the Harvest Fest. So we had growers who came together at Veterans Village to celebrate the work that they have done all year. And it was a beautiful day to be outside. I think I spent all day practically outside, and it was a great success in terms of people participating in the event, including farmers who came in from Land's End, which is located in Lowell, Indiana. Our final event for the year is that the Stormwater Management District will participate in and Green Urbanism will participate in is the Harvest Fest, which is scheduled for October 31st. It will be held at 455 Massachusetts Street at the Hudson Campbell Fitness Center, starting at 5 p.m. through 7:30 p.m. We will have a farmer's market event there. So we will have not the food truck, but the van that and the Legacy Foundation's program, where they have the van that comes around from community to community to really facilitate that activity. So there's not much that we can do. We just support them in terms of promoting our local farmers here in Northwest Indiana. That's all I really have to share with you right now. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to respond.
Any questions? Thank you.
Okay.
Next up on our agenda is information update from American Structure Point, and that will come from Chris Murphy.
Good afternoon, Directors. Chris Murphy with Structure Point. A couple things that we're working on, moving ahead on engineering work. The first is Lake Street Phase 2, which will be the construction for the balance of Lake Street from 3rd Avenue to Lake Street Beach for construction to follow on next year after the completion of the current construction at Lake Street in the parking lot. We'll be meeting with Lake County Highway Engineer this week to discuss the bridge over the lagoon out there that provides for access from Lake Street to the Lake Street Beach, and participation of Lake County in the cost of rehabilitation of that bridge and work that they can do in conjunction with the improvements that we're going to provide to Lake Street proper to furnish a complete multi-use access way from the Miller Station area all the way to Lake Street Beach. That includes walking, that includes biking, and that will include motor vehicles also. As we move ahead with that, we'll have a report on how Lake County will be able to participate in some of the work necessary for that bridge project. And with that, I'd like to ask John Tucker to provide a report on our construction activities, particularly in the Lake Street area in Miller.
Thank you. Mr. Tucker.
Afternoon again. Two ongoing projects that we do have, the Ambridge sewer rehab project. As Eric mentioned earlier, there are 2 point repairs that need to be made. They started this week, 1 week apiece for the point repairs, and the lining is still upcoming, hopefully towards the end of the month. Early part of November was the last update from our conference call last Thursday. Lake Street is also in progress as we speak. They are working mainly between really the Miller Avenue all the way north to 3rd, between 3rd and 5th. Asphalt has been completed, curb work has been completed, and then the actual digging out and roadway bed is happening between Miller and 4th Avenue, or 5th Avenue, sorry, with the asphalt coming soon on that one as well. So we've been meeting weekly with the business and homeowners on Thursday evenings to make sure they stay fully informed as what's going on and answer any questions that they may have. Things are progressing on schedule so far to have everything open here still by the end of November. Every opportunity the contractor has to get some flow of traffic on Lake Street, they will be working towards to open up, outside of work hours when they're not there. The biggest push would be to get the asphalt down, which would be soon. So with that being said, I'll turn it over if there's any other questions, comments.
Any questions for Mr. Tucker?
Yeah, I have one. Not a question, but I was out in that area, Miller area, Friday, just driving through trying to see what the heck you guys are doing out there.
Yes, sir.
It's like a disaster on the railroad
There's a lot of
track
work happening.
in that area, tearing up. But I do hope that you guys be able to get things done sometime to let traffic come back through there. I did get lost out there. I had to take a GPS to get out of there. Yeah.
I'm glad your GPS was able to get you around through there.
Yeah,
most
it was
of them.
around.
It is. We do have the detour flowing, to mainly get people into the parking lot. It's on 6 to get people back through the business area. But it is very congested throughout there.
It's
right
very
now,
congested.
so, like I said, the goal is to kind of keep, once we get asphalt down there.
I don't see how the guys how some of those individuals, businesses in that area get anything done, because the alleys are narrow. You get you have to make sure you get the right of way to get through there.
Yes.
But back to the bridge, you said going to rehabilitate the bridge in the Miller area over the lagoon.
Correct.
Does that mean that you're going to widen it or what?
That's one of the list of items to discuss with Lake County as to what work they see is needed by the bridge and what work they can consider to help fit the improved Lake Street facility across that bridge.
What type of utilities that we might look at getting under it and over it doing construction, so we won't have to come back. Do you have to have any type of utilities or drainages or anything? All the drainage, water drainage will go into the lagoon, hopefully.
To the lagoon, right.
Anything else?
Not that we're aware of at this point, but I think a lot of that will depend on...
What about the sewage on the other side, but accommodating individuals from there to the lake? If
There is
needed.
sanitary sewer in that area. Exactly where all the details of where it is and where it crosses the lagoon, I don't know at the moment as we discuss it. I think I'll be much better prepared to talk about that at the next meeting after we talk to Lake County.
Do we have sewage over there now?
Yeah, we do, and we're not talking about doing anything with even the storm drainage associated with that bridge. It's adequate as the sanitary sewer. It is let's say an appendage. It hangs on that bridge is where our pipe that serves the neighborhood north of the lagoon is pumped to the south. What we're really talking about here is we are coordinating with the county who owns the bridge. They have a report on the bridge condition, and they're looking to do some rehabilitation. All we're meeting with them about is, hey, I know you're doing this rehabilitation, but we would like for you to accommodate our bike trail that we're building from the train station at 7th Avenue in Lake Street, all the way to the lakefront.
So that means widening it, right?
Possibly. There's a number of different ways to accommodate it. That's why we're meeting with the county for the first time to coordinate.
So we won't have any responsibility of that at all?
No, we're not looking to have any financial responsibility.
That if necessary.
Right. By law, the county is responsible for all bridges over waterways in the county, so we would not be looking to take on any additional responsibility there.
That's all I have. That's all I have.
Anything further? Thank you, John.
Thank you, Directors.
Our next information update will come from Robinson Engineering, and that will come from Mr. Dave Schilling.
Thank you, Directors. The main things we've been working on, the Locust, Forest, and 20th Place projects have already been addressed via the agenda items in this meeting. I just want to thank the Directors for giving us the opportunity to continue to serve on these projects to make sure they get done correctly, and we will follow up with the change orders and direct the contractors as discussed. I think the only other thing we have going on is the wastewater treatment plant, the paving and concrete improvements, and Mr. Tonk has already updated the board on that, so that's really all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Schilling? Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Next on our agenda is discussion. Is there any topic a director wishes to discuss at this time? I'd like to take this opportunity to give a pat on the back to the Gary Stormwater Management District. As I'm sure you guys are aware, a couple weekends ago we had a pretty hefty storm. I'm hearing that the rainfall coming from that storm was at some highly unexpected levels for storms in the 100-year range. And the Stormwater Management District, with a couple challenges, performed exceptionally. If you were to take a tour of the city on Saturday, the day after the storm, you would notice that we were in much better conditions than some of our other communities, neighboring communities, and that's not to say anything negative about them, but to say some very positive things about us. And just want to tell the director to tell everybody over at the plant in the field. I do know we had one call off that Friday, but hey, some unexpected things happen. Just to tell them that the board says good job, because they did their work in a stellar fashion.
Thank you. I will.
What was the peak level?
That I don't know.
Could you say I
What
couldn't
was
hear
the
you.
peak level?
Oh, at the plant? Well, it was about 5 inches of rain on average in just a couple-hour time. Statistically, that puts it at about a 200-year event. But here at the plant, Rhonda left, she sent me these numbers I'm looking up. It wasn't historically high, actually. What sort of helped it is that it had been sort of dry. We were in a mild drought condition prior to that, so the ground soaked up a lot of that rain. But we our historic highs have been like 157 million gallons a day here at the plant. I believe we hit 137. So still high, very high, but not near historic highs. Really, it's something like that, we're worried more about the collection system. I'm not going to sugarcoat it too much. We received over 100 calls in that 2-hour window with people with basement flooding and so forth. There's a variety of reasons why that might happen. We have a lot of aged sanitary sewer connections, those sewer laterals to our sewer system, which don't help. But for the most part, I hear from our lift station superintendent, we had little to no issues with our 34 lift stations throughout the city. And from our plant superintendent here, Rhonda, no major issues with the plant either, so.
All right. With that, we will move on to request to speak. Ms. Lee, are there any requests to speak?
No, sir.
All right, well, the next item on the agenda is adjournment.